So there's a segment from the Sean Hannity Fox News program from the other day that was meant to prop up this idea of Joe Biden's not with it. Joe Biden's having a cognitive issue. Joe Biden can't think. Joe Biden's brain is imminently going to fall out of his head or whatever the case may be. And the clip is just stunning for its lack of even like any self-awareness about the fact that there were real questions about Donald Trump's cognitive struggles throughout his presidency. So let's look at the first clip to begin with. This is Sean Hannity and Kayleigh McEnany saying, can you even imagine if there were questions about, for example, Trump's cognitive state? And it's like, there were. Do you not remember, Kayleigh? Look at this.
Can you imagine, Kayleigh, if this was Donald Trump's record or Donald Trump was struggling cognitively like this? What would it be like?
I can't imagine. I mean, look, I was at the podium when I was asked over and over again about his trips to Walter Reed, and they were routine visits that he took, but they were convinced something sinister, something must have been wrong with the president. He must have been covering something up.
Okay, so do you guys remember the fact that Donald Trump was constantly acting bizarrely and there were never any explanations given and none of it made any sense? Like, these folks seem to have missed Trump's entire presidency. Just a couple of examples. I mean, just as a reminder, look at a few things. Here, Trump not only referring to the 1917 pandemic, which didn't exist, it was 1918, but says that it ended the Second World War, which was, of course, more than a decade later.
In 1917, they say, right? The great pandemic certainly was a terrible thing where they lost anywhere from 50 to 100 million people. Probably ended the Second World War. All the soldiers were sick. That was a terrible
Now,
situation.
I guess he meant the First World War and 1918, which it's not actually true that the 1918 flu ended the first. Just completely confused. And think, if Joe Biden said that, what would you be seeing on Fox News? Trump, of course, talking about the oranges, the citrus fruit of an investigation, really wanting to get down to the rind of things, we could say, and looking confused, realizing my brain's not connecting properly with my mouth here.
They now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings of that investigation.
That's weird. That's weird, and never an explanation. And Kayleigh pretending like the only real questions are about Joe Biden. The endless physical shoulder spasms simultaneous to like a mental catch on a word constantly happening. Regularly, there were people seeking a medical explanation for this. Here's just one example of that.
And let me begin by wishing you a beautiful, look, you remember this? Do you remember? They were trying to take Christmas.
He sort of covers it in a way where you don't necessarily pay more attention to it unless you're aware of the fact that that happens all the time. Never an explanation for why that happened regularly. There was also this incident, and we'll show some video as I describe it. There's this strange incident where Donald Trump came down off of Air Force One and his vehicle parked right at the bottom of the steps. And Donald Trump famously just kind of wandering off and having to be brought back. His vehicle is always right there, Secret Service, everybody waiting for him to get in. And Trump just wanders away and people start wondering what is happening here. Eventually, someone comes up to Trump and says, yeah, the car is right there. The car was right at the bottom of the stairs, like it always is every single time. And Donald Trump brought back to that vehicle. And we're not going to belabor this, but just to remind you guys, Sean Hannity and Kayleigh say, imagine if Trump had done the stuff Biden is doing. Imagine what right-wing media would have looked like if Biden was doing half the stuff Trump did. They did an entire event about an executive order and Trump left without signing it. And then Mike Pence sort of like pretended like the plan all along was to sign it in private, even though they had a whole desk set up for Trump to sign it in public. Remember this one?
Were you trying to tell the Justice Department to grant immunity to Michael Flynn? Were you trying to do that, Mr. President? Was that your intention, Mr. President, sir?
Thank you, President.
Mr. President, was that your intention, Mr. President? Were you trying to
So
tell a judge?
Trump just wandering away, and then Pence reminding him, you kind of didn't sign the thing that we were here to sign. And then just two last ones very quickly. Trump referring to Apple CEO Tim Cook as Tim Apple.
Into our country. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
Tim Apple, and then also referring to Marilyn Hewson, the CEO of Lockheed, as Marilyn Lockheed.
We have some of our great business leaders and leaders, period, right behind me. I may ask Marilyn Lockheed, the leading woman's business executive.
Okay, so you guys get the point. And so the real story here is when you see these segments on Fox News where they say something like, imagine if Trump had ever done the things Joe Biden has done. And then you look at what Joe Biden's done and it's like, oh yeah, Joe Biden has a stutter and he's nearly 80 and he's clearly slowed down from like when he ran circles around Paul Ryan, however many years ago it was. They say Trump never had anything like this. No. It's quite the opposite. And in fact, she and Hannity and everybody else was running interference all along when that was the case. Just pathetic hypocrisy and double standards. One of our sponsors is privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their completely free service at privacy.com/Pacman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. It takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each company a randomized virtual credit card number that you create out of thin air. It'll even autofill the card number with one click. And the payment is taken out of your checking account without the merchant ever knowing your real information. So this allows you to keep your banking information secure, but also to take control of your finances. You can create up to 12 of these virtual credit cards a month. You can set spending limits. You can freeze them. You can delete them anytime you want. So when you do this, it means you're not going to be charged when you don't want to be because you can destroy the virtual card number right after using it, which, for instance, I love using free trials because I know I won't be charged when the trial is over if I use a virtual credit card number. You're keeping your identity private by not telling companies who you are. You're keeping your bank or credit card info protected against data breaches and identity theft, and it's free. And like I said, you'll get $5 to spend when you sign up at privacy.com/Pacman.